This man is about to be dropped the height of a 12-story building. All to explore our experience of time. Time drives every second of our lives in ways we can scarcely imagine. But what is time? This is the quest to understand time and our place within it. It's a journey that starts with cutting-edge discoveries into what makes us tick, and ends with the mind-boggling implications of cosmological time. It's a journey that reveals something extraordinary. The more we understand time, the more we find that it is time that makes us uniquely human. Time is the greatest force in our lives. It drives us all. We are all obsessed by time. We never can seem to get enough of it. Time is invisible. Time is untouchable. And yet time rules our lives. As a physicist, I've spent most of my life studying time, and I know it's one of the greatest mysteries in all of nature. We all know that time is out there, but we can't see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, or smell it. So how does it exert such power over our lives? In this program, I'm going to find out. This is the story of personal time, the everyday time that shapes us as people. It's midnight on Newport Beach, just outside Los Angeles. I've come here to experience a remarkable feat of timing. And sure enough, they're coming right on schedule. These fish, called grunions, are arriving here on this beach, on this night, within a precise 2-hour window. There are masses of them already. This is truly amazing. I've never quite seen anything like this in my life before. Hundreds of them on this beach. This is remarkable. Within minutes, the hundreds have turned into thousands, all arriving right on cue. Somehow, without a compass, without a GPS system, without a wristwatch, without a calculator, they're able to navigate the Pacific Ocean. They know to come right here to Newport Beach, right on time, and it's almost like clockwork. And the reason they've come here is to mate. They have just 2 hours to carry on the species. This is really an exquisite sense of timing that they have. And they get it right every single time. Time is a force of nature. that these creatures have to obey. And if they don't obey, then they simply don't reproduce at all. So time is more than simply an abstract concept. To them, time is life and death. If they get their timing wrong, then they simply vanish as a species.
The Grunions achieved their remarkable timing by following cues from the moon and the tides. But it's not something they think about. Their timing, however precise, is purely an instinct.
But surely, we humans are different from the Grunions. We do what we want, when we want. We are separate from the animals. We think about time. We know about time.
Our timing, surely, is driven by choice, not instinct.
But is it possible? Is it possible that we might be hardwired and not even know it?
In 1962, one man decided to find out if we were unknowingly controlled by time. Michel Siff, a French geologist, went to live in a cave for 2 months, initially with the aim of studying a glacier.
As a young geologist, I decided to stay 2 months to study this ice, you know. And at the beginning, the study was only geology. And then I have the idea of my life. I decide not to take a watch in the cave. I decide to live without any time cues.
The decision to live without a watch, completely alone, was the beginning of a groundbreaking series of experiments.
I decided to live following my feeling of hungry, my feeling of going to sleep. In the cave, it's always dark. Then your body follows its own sense.
Isolated in his own world of time, Michel reported everything he did to a surface team.
And I decide to call them when I wake, when I eat, when I make pee-pee, and when I go to sleep.
Déjeuner, menu 211.
It wasn't long before Michel had completely lost track of time.
As soon as you pass the first night in the cave, you are lost in time. You are lost, completely lost, and you don't know if you have slept only 1 or 2 hours or if you slept 10 hours.
Despite the fact that Michel had lost track of time in his mind, the data on the surface began to reveal a pattern. Even after months of isolation, his body continued to follow a roughly 24-hour cycle of sleeping and waking. Astonishingly, something was controlling his timing from within.
The main result of the experiment was that human has a body clock, independently, completely independent from the Earth's cycle.
Michel Siff's experiment had proven for the first time that it isn't only animals who are slaves to their body clock. For us too, time is an inbuilt biological mechanism controlling our behavior. It makes sense to me that our sleeping and waking would be controlled by the body clock. But since Siff's experiment, scientists are discovering that time plays a much bigger part than we'd ever realized. And over the next 24 hours, I'm having a series of tests to find out.
You must be Benita, right?
Yes, I am, yes.
I see. So you'll be the one administering this battery of medieval tortures, I understand.
Hopefully not that bad, Michio. No, what we're going to be doing today is looking at all the things within the body which change across the day but aren't as obvious as things like the sleep-wake cycle, which everybody knows. Pop that into your mouth, chew on it for a bit, see how far forward...
Benita's going to look for the effects of time in everything. My stress hormones,
Okay, thanks very much.
my flexibility,
Pull up as hard as you can.
even my muscle strength.
You tell me when it hurts.
Beginning to hurt. Stop.
Okay.
Time runs through every aspect of our bodies. According to Benita, it affects just about everything we do.
Oh, there's no escaping.
No.
Oh, okay.
Throughout the day, my physical performance seems to be changing dramatically.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in our descent and will shortly be landing.
I knew that somebody knew something about the fourth dimension. That somebody knew something about...
I'm terribly sorry.
Oh.
Can we interrupt you?
Oh,
Can we
okay.
just do one of these tests for me again,
Oh,
please?
okay. Sorry about that.
Even the chemicals in my saliva are subject to time's influence.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. Somebody knew something about space warps. So, how did I do?
Better that time. 15 seconds.
Very
Well
good.
done.
So at last, 24 hours after the test began, I'm going to find out just what was going on.
Oh, hello,
Hi.
Michio. Nice to see you again.
Right, hi.
So, shall we have a look at some of the results
Yes,
we
I'm
got
dying
the
to
other
find
day?
out what happened
Right.
after being put through the ringer.
Well, that's right. So we'll start off with the saliva samples that we took. You remember that was to look at cortisol?
How can I forget?
Yes, which is a hormone related to stress, and it has a daily rhythm.
Now look at that. I would have thought it would be at the bottom. You know, you're rested in the morning, you're groggy. I would have thought that you're unstressed.
Yes, maybe your stress levels aren't high, but the levels of cortisol are high, so that when you get up in the morning, you should be wide awake and able to go and do things.
See. So this is basically our evolutionary cup of coffee then, right?
Yes, that's right, yes.
This is what gets us
Right.
going in the morning.
Yes, it helps.
I see.
It helps indeed.
Dramatic.
It turns out that almost all our body processes follow predictable cycles.
I mean, you've got a very
They are controlled by time.
So tell me now, how did I do on the pain test?
You can see a difference between the morning and the afternoon.
Yeah, quite dramatic. Look at that.
Yeah.
Why is it that the pain threshold changed in my body during the day? It's quite dramatic.
Yes, it is, and it's because the nerves are less sensitive later on in the day, so that it takes more to excite them to send the message to the brain to say, ouch. Well, if we get the strength up, you can see here what we were actually measuring. Because
And
we
all
were
these
standing
different processes are governed by one master clock,
back muscles.
a central timer that orchestrates every bit of our biology.
Pulling was it was using your leg muscles and your back muscles. So all of these parameters that we've measured today, the rhythms are all controlled from one small group of cells which make up something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is buried right in the middle of the brain.
And this is where the master clock is, deep within our brains. A cluster of only 20,000 cells, no bigger than a pea. An organ of time that synchronizes every process in the body. Benita's experiment made me realize how utterly fundamental the body clock is. If it goes wrong, we're thrown completely out of sync with the entire world around us. In the middle of the night, at 3 a.m., when most people are sleeping soundly, 2 inhabitants of Liberty, North Carolina are starting their day.
My daughter and I have always gotten up early. For us, that means we get up, our normal getting up time or rising time is about 3:30. The oddity about it is that for us, sometimes it doesn't even matter how late we've been up the night before. We will still get up at that same time.
Clay McQuarrie and his daughter Bethany wake up at this time, day in, day out. But they didn't choose this lifestyle. They have an incredibly rare disease that forces them to run on a different schedule in the lonely hours of the morning.
Employees are out there watching like this all year round.
Oh, yeah.
Get some of those fries out of the frozen section. I'm able to get a lot done before I even go to work and before really most people's day starts. So I'll go to the store and get groceries, 5:30 in the morning sometimes just to beat the crowd.
Without any hope of a cure, Clay and Bethany have had to adjust to this dislocation in time.
Oh, Dad, look, donuts. I'll go to sleepovers, and of course I'm the first one to fall asleep ever, and so I never know what's going on after when I fall asleep, or sometimes I'll go to concerts and stuff and I'll get kind of tired. I'll have to take a caffeine pill to help me stay awake and stuff.
For Clay and Bethany, it's like living in a different time zone, and biologically they are.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Recently, they've discovered their condition is caused by an abnormal body clock.
I think I could hear you.
It's called ASPS, or Advanced Sleep Phase Syndrome.
Approximately 2 years ago, that's when we found out about what ASPS is and what it involves, what it's like. My dad, he grew up as a dairy farmer, and so he got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and milked cows. So for him, ASPS worked out beautifully, to be able to get up early and to do that. So when we were growing up, I guess I kind of wondered if I just kind of inherited it from him as a dairy farmer.
Unfortunately, we didn't get past the first formation. He had to kind of stand there.
I think Bethany and I are very close. I think because we've had those early mornings together all of her life, that I would think I have a closer relationship than I would think some fathers, because they haven't been able to have that time together.
Like Mr. Owen says, it's a great day to be a marching blue jay.
But ASPS doesn't affect the whole family.
Talk to us after the game.
Clay and Bethany have it, but Clay's wife Janelle and their son Casey don't. And this means that their family is divided in time.
There's been times when I wished, we would kind of function the same as other families. It does make it hard when you're wanting to be together, and if we want to do something in the evening. So I think we intentionally plan to do things mid-morning. We go to matinees for movies instead of going to the evening movies, but we just don't schedule a lot in the evening.
Only a handful of families in the world are known to have ASPS. And their DNA is helping scientists to unpick the very basis of our body clock. It turns out that our body's time is controlled by just a few genes. And a single mutation on a single gene is enough to cause it to go completely adrift. Studying these genes has revealed something quite extraordinary. These same few body clock genes seem to be present in all plants and animals, and this suggests they must be one of life's most fundamental building blocks.
For me, I find it absolutely astounding that the biological clocks ticking away in my body are about the same as those of the grunion. Imagine, it's in the birds, in cows, flies, plants too, even bacteria. We all share the same biological mechanisms for time.
So the rhythm of our daily lives comes from within us. Our fundamental experience of time turns out to be internal, written into the DNA of every single cell of our bodies. But in the past couple of 100 years, that's all changed.
The rule of nature has been replaced by the rule of machines. Industry, global travel, and electric lights have created a brave new world in which we control the length of our days. We're no longer at the whim of nature. Technology has allowed us to create our own time, but at a faster pace.
Time for us has become an external pressure, a force created by the demand for speed and punctuality, all marked by the mechanical ticking of the clock. Historian Stephen Kern calls it public time.
The great development is the increasing sense of public time. People's lives become much more punctual, much more temporally regimented, and almost dominated.
Public time really took off with the Industrial Revolution. Workers were driven by the relentless beat of factory machines. All of a sudden, time was money.
Time became very dominant in the workplace, following the work of Frederick Winslow Taylor, who in 1881 began his scientific management studies. He observed an expert brickmaker, broke down every motion into efficient units, reconstructed them, timed them, so that each unit of production had a specific time that had to be satisfied, and then imposed that model on all other workers.
With the rise of new high-speed technologies, public time began to move into all aspects of life. But there was one world-shattering event that changed everything. World War I. The huge numbers of people involved required unprecedented coordination in time.
If one platoon popped up a little bit early, they would be cannon fodder. So it had to be coordinated very, very precisely. To effect this, headquarters sent out watches synchronized at headquarters so that everyone had a watch running at the exact same time. The watch was really a part of their weaponry, in a sense. They had to be there at the exact same time. Prior to this war, wearing a wristwatch was thought to be feminine. During the war, it was a matter of life and death.
The Great War was a turning point. Now everyone carried time pressure on the end of an arm. Today, clocks are everywhere. They rule our every moment, marking the passage of every second.
The pace of life seems to be accelerating faster and faster.
Constantly aware of the ticking of time, speed has become crucial to everything we do.
I remember when FedEx first introduced the overnight delivery system. People laughed. People said, why would anyone want something like that? Nowadays, that's indispensable. Everyone wants their packages delivered tomorrow. So I would imagine that our pace of living today would be absolutely terrifying to someone just 100 years ago.
Now, from dawn to dusk, we are driven by time, by what feels like an external force relentlessly ticking off the seconds and minutes of our lives. But could even our sense of the march of time ultimately come from inside of us?